There's only one, well, there might be more than one, but there's only one problem growing up Catholic. Just one. It's not too many. Things that Jesus say that are very countercultural, things that Jesus pronounces in the gospel are shocking. But because we hear them each and every year, and because I preach on them each and every year, the Good Samaritan, and on and on and on, and all of the wonderful sermons that Jesus teaches, we become numb. We get numb to it. It's old hat. But for those that were listening to Jesus the first time, this was shocking. Oh my God, what is he talking about? What is this Jesus talking about? We have to remember, after 2,000 years of hearing the same stories over and over and over again, that they are still countercultural and very revolutionary. And if we take them seriously, they're going to change the way we live. It has to. There's no other way. It will change the way you live. Not if you read the gospel. Anybody can read the gospel. You can read the whole Bible. We read the whole Bible on our Thursday small groups over and over and over again. But do we do the things that Jesus is saying? There's the big part of it. There's the thing that we have to do. Do we do the things that Jesus tells us to do? And some of them are shocking and should shock you to death when you read them. The problem is that we hear them, that they don't hold the impact that they did. Maybe when we were young they did. Maybe when we were a novitiate and we heard it for the first time about Francis, they did. But do they shock you still? They should shock you out of your shoes when you read them. But don't ever let them lose their pizzazz. Don't ever let them lose their pizzazz. Jesus says some crazy things. Jesus is crazy. He's crazy. Crazy in love with what the Father has in store for us. He tells us things like, oh my God, this one here, I got to put this one on my refrigerator. He tells us not to worry about what we're going to eat or what we're going to wear. That's my two big things in life. What am I going to wear in the morning and what am I going to eat for breakfast, right? But he tells us, don't worry about those things. He tells us, don't save up for a rainy day, but trust that God will provide for everything you need. Do you trust in Him that much? That's scary to trust in God that much. Sometimes I don't trust in Him that much. And as the week goes by, Sunday I trust in Him a lot. I trust in the Holy Spirit because I got to get up here and I've got to preach. I have to celebrate the Mass and I've got to be on the top of my game. But then Monday comes and the world wears you down a little bit. And by Thursday, my dear friends, I don't know if I'm Catholic anymore by Thursday. So I need God in my life Monday through Saturday, and especially on Sunday. Jesus tells us that when someone tries to steal something from us, give him the other pair of pants. If he takes one, he didn't say pants, I didn't have pants, but if he takes your cloak, give him another one as well. This is crazy talk. When we think of it in our culture, this is crazy. When someone stiffs you, and I've been stiffed on more weddings, I can tell you, then go away and be glad and pray for them. This is contrary to what I believe. I'll tell you, this is contrary to what I believe and what my human mind teaches myself. I spoke to you a couple of weeks ago about wanting to knock a fellow clergyman out the way he was talking one time to me. And that's our humanness. That's our sinfulness. I don't care if you're the Pope, you're going to have those times When they close St. Anne's Church, you're ready to sock somebody in the nose for it, because that was the place that you went. And wanting to exact vengeance a lot of times is never what Jesus is all about. It's what we're all about. It's what I'm all about a lot of times. That's why I need to follow him each and every day. And it's tough. It's tough. When the world starts creeping in, my brothers and sisters, it's tough. And these that I mentioned are a few teachings that kind of make sense to us. These are teachings that we read and we hear, but file away. I file them away like I file things on my computer. But instead of filing them away, they should be on my screen of my computer when I open it up. And there are teachings that make sense to us, and we do take very seriously, but they still don't hold that wow factor. They don't hold that wow factor. And I think of the story of the prodigal son. That's definitely one. We hear it so many times about how the Father loves us so much and how God truly loves us so much. No matter how far we stray, he's ready to take us back. And I've preached on it a million times. So many times. And it has lost its wow factor, but it shouldn't. And the same thing with today's gospel with the Good Samaritan. It's a story I've heard so many times about the Good Samaritan, so many sermons, and yet, here we are preaching about it again. And can we see it in a new light? Maybe we can. But our biggest obstacle to our understanding of the story of the Good Samaritan is not our familiarity with the whole subject. I think the biggest obstacle to our understanding of it is the fact that it's all about Israelites and Samaritans 2,000 years ago. 2,000 years ago. The fact is that the Good Samaritan does not seem like an oxymoron anymore to us. Actually, we sometimes even shorten it and just call him the Samaritan. So even though we know that to the Jews of Jesus' time, a Samaritan was considered a really bad person, we don't necessarily read it that way anymore. If Jesus were telling the story in Israel today, to the people of Israel, he would tell them the story about the good Palestinian. And I can tell you, many of the Jews in Israel do not like the Palestinians. And if Jesus were telling the story about America in our world today, in 2019, it wouldn't be all about Samaritans at all. It would be about Islamo-fascists. You see, for the Israelites of Jesus' day, the Samaritans were the enemy, the sworn enemy of their people. They were brought up as little children to hate them. They were taught to not see any redeeming qualities at all in them. And so when Jesus tells a story where someone gets injured and two upstanding citizens ignore the man totally, walk right by him because they're afraid of the consequences, this is the enemy. It is someone most likely who comes to the rescue is the Samaritan. And this is the neighbor that Jesus is talking about always in the gospel. Your neighbor, for me, my neighbor is the Republicans. I'm a Democrat. I'm usually an independent, because I vote for who I like. But do I reach out to Republicans who really torque me off on Facebook? Am I doing that? Because if we're not, then we're not reaching out to our neighbor. Even though things that the administration says really gets me going, they are my neighbor. Those people are my neighbors. Jesus was trying to say something shocking to the Israelites of his time. He was trying to show that even an enemy, even a sworn enemy, can show kindness. He was trying to get those who were listening to him to move outside of their little comfort zone and beyond their own preconceptions. Even the people in the Middle East who are daily trying to come up with ways to kill us Americans, even the ones who want to take away all our freedom of religion and force us to worship Allah, Even these people are our neighbors. But there is something else going on in Jesus' story as well. You see, the good Islamofascist, the Good Samaritan, wasn't good intrinsically. He wasn't good because he was necessarily raised that way at all. He wasn't good because he was a Samaritan. No, the reason he was a neighbor to the man on the side of the road who was wounded and beaten was that he was doing the right thing. Minute to minute to minute. Doesn't matter how good you think you are. Some days I think I'm great, and other days not so much. But what do you do in that situation? What do you do in that situation when you're confronted by a Republican who's tearing President Obama down? What do you do with people who are tearing our country down? What do you do? You still have to be neighbor to them, unfortunately, because Jesus tells us this is what you have to do. He's telling us this in the story of the Good Samaritan. I don't think the Good Samaritan woke up that day and planned to do a good deed. That's not something that he learned or he trained for. It is not something that he could possibly prepare himself for. It's great when someone can come up with some good deed. There's nothing wrong with that. Do for someone else. But I don't think he really planned on doing it that day. But this is not the situation that's before us in Christ's parable to us. No, the Samaritan was wandering down the road, minding his own damn business, when a situation rose before him. He was given a spur-of-the-moment decision that you will all face one day, if not leaving here. You will face it. You will have to make a decision one day to choose and help people you don't necessarily like. Being a good neighbor, as Jesus wants us to be, and what today's scripture is all about, doesn't have to do with what you plan to do with your vocation or what you plan to do with life. It has to do with the good things that you do at the spur of the moment for everything that is thrown your way. And there will be a lot. These are all tests. You're going to have more tests in your life than you will be able to handle. But all of these tests, if you fail one, you get up and you rely on God. Lean on Him. In Peter it says, cast all of your cares on Him, for He cares for you. That's one of the biggest scriptures that I need to put on my refrigerator. Cast all of your cares on Him, all of your worries on Him, all of your tests that you're going to face in life. Cast them on Him. His yoke is easy. Sometimes we think it's very difficult. It's not very difficult to follow. It's very different. You're going to be very different for people around you. Oh, yes. Many years ago, I went to a Buddhist monastery in Cumberland, Rhode Island. And I sat there. They were teaching meditation with a Benedictine father at the time. And that's why I went there, because I wanted to hear him speak on meditation. And I can tell you, they passed out these books, and it was in Korean. Well, I don't know 3 words of Korean, I'll be honest with you. And the chanting was in Korean. The good Benedictine knew the drill, and 2 of the monks sat on each side of me, and one held the book in front of me, the other one went along, like Lawrence Welk, if years ago, or Mish Miller, went along, and within a few minutes, it was all done phonetically, I was writing a groove. These Buddhist monks, these Zen Buddhist monks, were more my neighbor. I've never gone to a particular church, I don't care if it's Roman or Anglican, where if I can't find the page, somebody comes up to me and says, oh, it's over here, and this is how you do it. They were more Christian to me, they were more my neighbor than many Catholics that I have come across in my life. And these were Zen Buddhists. I always say after that experience, Zen Buddhists are more Christian and more Catholic than most Catholics. They don't come on Sunday and punch their clock and do that 1 hour. They're praying every day. Not that you're going to be in church every day, but they're praying every day, and I know that they pray every day. There are moments when we are called to put the needs of others before our own needs. I'm going to repeat it one more time because it's the important part of the homily and you need to take this home with you. There are moments when we are called to put the needs of others before our own needs, and that's Christianity in a nutshell. If you can follow that one line, you'll be in heaven one day. Today, let us be like that Good Samaritan. Let us be like that Zen Buddhist monk. Let us be a neighbor to all. Amen?